brand has impacted my life tremendously. Content has impacted my life. I'm just curious how you look at personal brand.
Number one, brand and personal brand have become such a buzzword.
Yeah.
People are throwing it around indiscriminately because it sounds cool. What people are used to doing, especially as we see on social media, is living a highly curated life, presenting themselves to be something, a persona, but it's not really you. It's a part of you, but it's not all of you. And so my whole thing is, can we close the gap between the real you and the persona? And the better we can do that, the more we are in alignment with who we're supposed to be, who we're designed to be, who we're born to be, whatever your belief is.
Why do you think most people are afraid to start? Why do they live in fear?
They're waiting for that permission slip because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of failure because they've learned in school when you give the wrong answer, you're humiliated.
What's going on, Wealth Builders? Today, I have got the king of personal branding. This guy has so many hit videos on the topic. I've got Chris Do. What's up, man?
Good to see you, Ryan.
Yeah, so we just had a fun dinner over here in Austin, Texas, getting into some cool things that are happening in the personal branding world and the AI world, and there's a lot changing.
Yeah.
So I want to dive into that, but I got to ask you first. You know, I've even thought about your brand over the years, and I've watched a lot of your videos. Like, where did the name The Futur come from? Like, what does it represent?
Good question. Okay. So there's a dark story to this. There's a happy ending to it, but there's a dark story. So before it was called The Futur, it was called The School, and it's spelled SKOOL. No relation to the company that's called School now.
Yeah.
And it was started by my former co-founder, a guy by the name of Jose Caballé. And we were building this education company together, and 2.5 years into it, we had diverging ideas about how to run an education company, so we split. And I was sitting there with my notebook, 200 names later, like nothing is sticking. I'd literally drive by the street and like, let's call it pear, or let's call it this. Let's just, whatever we see, we're just gonna write it down. And during that time, there was like some kind of frayed feelings and emotions between the two of us. So we were having kind of a proxy argument on Facebook.
Okay.
He would post something about some mysterious person.
Yeah.
Not name me, but sure feels like it's to me. And then we would just go back and forth like children.
Yeah.
We should know better because we're like in our 40s. We shouldn't be doing this. So he's very good at writing. So he writes this kind of manifesto. And he writes this manifesto and he says, everything's changing. In the future, designers will have a seat at the table and they'll do this in the future, in the future, in the future. I'm like, I know what we're going to do. I'm going to troll him. I'm going to call the company that as if he was writing about us. Like, in the future, in my company, designers will have a seat at the table. Designers won't be order takers. They will be strategic thinkers and creative kindred spirits to the business operation. And that's where the name comes from. Just comes from my former business partner.
So it came out of spite.
Pretty much. Yeah.
And it's stuck for how many years now?
Officially, it's, oh my gosh, it's almost, we're coming up on 10 years.
So 10 years.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
So what is the core of what The Futur does? Is it helping these designers reach that seat at the table? Is it still that's the mission?
I think so. We're an education company. We have information products. We do live training workshops. And I just look at it like our education system hasn't changed in a couple hundred years. It's time for an update.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm working on. That's kind of my life thesis, that things can be better, things can be more equitable, accessible, and it could better society if we allowed great students to have access to top-notch, high-quality instruction. That's the thesis.
Yeah, I want to talk about that because we were talking about that at dinner too, just different ways that schooling and all that can change. But let's talk a bit about personal branding because that's what most people know you for, follow you for. And I mean, brand has impacted my life tremendously. Content has impacted my life. You know, we've rebranded everything around this wealthy, you know, kind of branding. And I didn't really have much talks with people about it. It was just like, well, I guess this is just kind of what we are. And I'm just curious how you look at personal brand, especially like even with naming the company, The Futur, and what you're doing.
Okay, there's a lot of different ideas and competing thoughts. And I think there's two schools of thought. And I might ruffle some feathers here by saying this, okay? So number one is what, excuse me. Number one is where I think the majority of the market is, where brand and personal brand have become such a buzzword.
Yeah.
People are throwing it around indiscriminately because it sounds cool. You don't just have a company, you have a brand. You're not just a person, you have a personal brand.
Yeah.
And to some degree they're right, but what they look at personal branding is as a vehicle to sell more products, to bring people into the top of funnel. and creating a persona so that you become more attractive to your customers. That's one school of thought. The other school of thought is the thought that I'm trying to champion, which is personal brand isn't about customers at all. It's about getting in touch with who you are. I was on a flight today with a friend, Dr. Vu, and we were chatting, and he goes, Chris, are you a spiritual person? You feel like you're a really spiritual person. I'm like, well, it depends on how you describe that. And he said something I thought was really beautiful. I hope I'm saying it right. But he's like, when you can acknowledge, accept, and express yourself fully, that's what spirituality is about. I'm like, oh, that's really beautiful. And if that's the case, then I think that's a pretty good definition for personal brand for me. To know who you are, to accept who you are, and to be able to express that fully. And so I was like, no wonder when I talk about personal branding, people are like, oh, you're a very spiritual person. And I was like, I wasn't taking it there, but that's really interesting. I don't use any of that language. So for me, a personal brand is who you really, really are deep down in all the crevices and the dark places, the places that you're not quite ready to show and share with the world, but that's the complete you. What people are used to doing, especially as we see on social media, is living a highly curated life, presenting themselves to be something, a persona. And the persona is presented to be accepted, to be loved, to be appreciated, but it's not really you. It's a part of you, but it's not all of you. And so my whole thing is, can we close the gap between the real you and the persona? And the better we can do that, the more we are in alignment with who we're supposed to be, who we're designed to be, who we're born to be, whatever your belief is.
Yeah. Well, to me, it sounds like most people would look at brand and personal brand, and they would start from the outside, and they would say, hey, what do I want to be known for?
Right.
You know, what can I bring to the marketplace? What is the marketplace missing? How do I fill the gap?
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm going to build my brand around filling this gap and what I want to become. And it's more aspirational.
Yeah.
Right. And then, even for me, that's why I said I kind of just like it fell into becoming what it's become, not like out of trying, but for me, it's like with my content today, I'll talk about real estate, I'll talk about brand, I'll talk about faith, I'll talk about baseball, sports, because they're all just who I am. It's part of my story and what I'm doing and who I am and my family and kids and all this. And so even the podcast now, I have pastors on, I've got real estate guys on, I've got billionaires on, and there's no rhyme or reason for who I'm choosing. They're just people I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, it becomes this hodgepodge of a personal brand. Like people will still say, oh, I know you for real estate, but like also I like that, you talk about faith, you talk about this.
Yeah.
Like how is that? Like, do you think that you're still going to be known for maybe like a core thing, and then maybe there's like these sub things that you're also known for?
Okay, that's very good. So that takes me to like point number 2. I was a little disappointed. Again, no shade thrown, but I was really excited about this cover on Harvard Business Review, and it was like May, June issue, and it was about personal brand. I'm like, cool. HBR is like talking about this. I got to get that. So I make a point to go to a bookstore and actually buy it and go to the article. And I hope I'm not saying this incorrectly, but it was mostly talking about how you present yourself, almost like a resume.
Yeah.
Like in a job market, like I do XYZ with a certain flair. Like I do social media marketing, but for puppies or whatever.
Yeah.
And so then it becomes a very external expression, not the expression of you, just the expression of what you do. So I will tell people a personal brand isn't what you do, it's who you are. And when you understand that, we have a very different dialogue around this. Mm-hmm. So Ryan, the theory that I share with folks is, the amount of light that the human eye can see and discern, the visible light spectrum, is a very small portion of the entire light spectrum. Mm-hmm. That's why animals can see infrared and different things, right? They might be able to see your aura. We don't know because we can't see it. But if you were to shine the visible light into someone's eye, it's too much. And I think all of you presenting yourself to the world is too much.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is we look at it through a prism, and then the light is diffracted into the red, orange, yellow, blue, indigo, violet, the colors. And what we're doing in our daily life is we're showing our children 2 colors, maybe our partner 6 or 7 of the colors, and our workplace maybe just the blue spectrum. And it's too much for people to take in all at once. So when people know of you as the real estate guy, they're just seeing the blue spectrum. Let's say that's an arbitrary assignment of a color to what you do. But when you talk about golfing or baseball or faith, and other things that you're interested in. You're showing them a broader spectrum of who you are. So at some point, when you're fully kind of realized and you know who you are, you actually show them all of you, but it's not done in an overwhelming, blinding way. So it's a journey, it's a process. I hope it's not so esoteric the way I'm describing it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. And I would even say for me, when I first started, and this is a whole nother thing we can talk about too, like personal brand and then like social media.
Yeah.
Because for me, I've always been who I am, right? And then it became, okay, I'm going to start making content. What do I got to make content about? Well, I'm going to make content about flipping houses because that's what, my business is. That's what would help my business. It's what people would want to learn from me the most out of the things that I do. Okay, let's do that. And through that, it just started to naturally come up maybe those other colors.
Yeah.
Like, like I flipped houses. This is my wife. And then we have kids. And, here's something we did over here. And this is why I did it on a golf course. And so it's like they just come up because of what you're doing, not even like forced. And I think that that's kind of how it's evolved. And then, I don't know, as time goes on, sometimes just things start to become more important to you.
Yeah.
So it became more important to me to start talking about faith more. And it's not like it helps my business per se. It's just important to me now.
Yeah.
And it's a more important part of my life than maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you think about personal brand and social media, like, are they kind of one and the same? Like, can you have a personal brand without content and like expressing who you are? Like, do you even worry about it?
Okay. Very good question. If you were to live in a village of 10 people, you would have a personal brand that's multiplied by the 9 people who observe you.
Yeah.
You and the 9 make 10. And that's how it's going to be. And so the chief will know you as a certain person. Your partner will know you as a certain person, and the other villagers will know you a certain way. And if enough of them agree to who you are, then you kind of have a brand. Now, we amplify that through complex, dense urban structures, and then we amplify that through the proliferation of content and media through social media. The ability for people to get to know you is at a scale in which we can't even really fully comprehend. That someone somewhere who doesn't even have 5 friends in real life can have an impact of 5 million people who follow them. And now what we're trying to do is to say, like, you can have ideas and present yourself in a way that's uniquely different. And the more different you are, the stronger your brand becomes. So branding is a process of differentiation. When you said, I've always been me, I think most people would say something like that. I've always been me. But who is me? And is the Ryan that's a fully formed adult the same Ryan who is like a little kid?
No. Right.
Probably not. And so I have a theory here that we've been socialized through school. You grew up in America.
Yep.
Right? So there's public schools, private schools, and they want you to do something. And like were you like hyperactive as a kid or anything like that?
Yeah, I played a lot of sports.
Okay, but in the classroom, were you always getting into trouble?
Because no.
Okay, all right.
Oh no, I was your typical Asian kid.
Okay.
Yeah, I
follow the rules. Raise your hand. Okay. Yeah. Good kid, good student.
Exactly. Straight A's. Everything.
Perfect. See, that's socialization, right?
Exactly.
There, right. So there are norms that are present in different cultures, and then you adhere to those, and then there's norms within the culture and society in which you are brought up in. Now, there's always in every class, there's always a class clown. There's always a loudmouth. There's always certain characters and roles that are played. And what we've observed as children is when someone does something weird, they usually get punished.
Yeah.
So then eventually we learn, and all the weirdness gets kind of buried or cleansed. So we all become the same person over time.
Yeah, we start
like
conforming.
The business uniform, like when people show up at work, like everybody dresses the same, everybody combs their hair a certain way. And it's like, what happened here? So what we want to do is we want to peel back all those layers and look at the Ryan who's raw. Like if I picked you up and dropped you off on a deserted island, and after a while, all that, the socialization wears off, we'll see the real you, the carnal, primal you. I'm not saying that we want to present that everywhere we go, because sometimes you need some filter, you need some restraint and control, and you need to do the right thing, even though maybe the selfish thing is what your nature is.
Right.
I think it's that duality that's really interesting to explore. So I think a lot of people are in the bodysuit of an adult with a child trapped inside.
Yeah.
Who still don't know who they are. So we have to get in touch with who we are.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So getting back to that, right? You know, you have, you're going to have a brand regardless of if it's just currently the people in this room or it's, in front of millions of people.
Yeah.
How important, I mean, I guess your explanation would be it's important to express yourself properly to the right people in the right setting. Is that a correct statement?
Let me refine that a little bit.
Okay.
Because I don't know, the right says there's a wrong, so I'm not quite sure. There's some value statement added to that. I think our lives are designed for us to find who the heck we're supposed to be, aligned around our highest passion. And then when we're able to do that, we're the most realized person that we can be. Many people go to their grave not even exploring that, don't understand that, have sacrificed so much so that somebody else can have what they want, that they never have that time for themselves. Mm-hmm. And I think the world would be a better place if more people were aligned to their higher purpose and passion.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important. How you present that to the world, to what scale, whether they accept it or not, I'm out of that business. I'm just in the business of who is Chris and expressing myself in the fullest.
Yeah. But like you said, though, you can't give everyone the fullest of you all the time.
That's right.
You have to determine and have discernment in the proper setting.
That's right. Like, for example, you'll notice you talk to your children differently than to your wife.
Yeah.
Than to a vendor.
Yeah.
And you're using different tool sets of you and your energy because a certain job is required. Like if we were walking down the street and accosted by some drunken Texans, your personality would change really fast. Mine would too.
Yeah.
Our mild-mannered, meek selves would be like, hey, we're in a dangerous situation right now. We need to get out. And to show fear or to act in certain irrational ways are going to bring more problems to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to have to adapt. So yes, we kind of dial it up and down. But the part of it is, are you aware that you're doing this? Because most people are not.
Yeah.
And are you doing it with the right intention? Because most people are not.
Yeah.
Here's the classic example. Say you're a person who is not of a good nature and you're really looking to profit from others. So you dial in the trustability, the friendliness, and I care about you, I'm generous, and it's all fake.
Yeah.
But you do that because you know that's what people need from you. And that's how you're going to release some of the burden of their own money. We would have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Right? And most people would.
Yeah.
So are you dialing it up and down for the right reasons? And if you're not, then we have to that's between you and whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. So with that, let's talk about social media and personal brand and some actionable things. Now that we kind of understand the essence of what it is.
Yeah.
It's really just the essence of who you are at its truest form.
Yes.
So how do we use social media in a way that, most people watching this would be business owners.
Yeah.
And how do we use it in a way to grow our personal brand so that it benefits our lives and our business and everything else? Because I think, most people who start out on social media, some may do it for fun. Some may do it, I guess everyone does it for different reasons. I can only say a lot of people, and myself included, the reason I personally started was to help grow my business.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. I think many of us are in relationships that we didn't choose, and we would choose to do other things and we're not happy, and we're kind of living this repressed life. And I think it's not helping anybody. You have this short life to live. We have to make the most of it. So if we can get in touch with who we are, and we know who that is, and we're ready to share some of that, and we can kind of ratchet up slowly over time, what we're going to use are platforms to allow us to communicate and express who we are.
Yeah.
That's all it is. So whether it's on LinkedIn, TikTok, or YouTube, or Instagram, it doesn't really matter. What I tell people is find the platform that seems most compatible with who you are, what's most in sync with you. So if you're a really good writer, sometimes Twitter or LinkedIn, or maybe just write a really good blog post to express yourself.
Yeah.
If you're really good on camera, or if you have a beautiful voice, maybe a podcast is your thing. You have to look into the assets that you already have, not try to fit into someone else's definition. And if you start to express yourself, here's the really cool part. You have an interesting story to tell. Mm-hmm. You have a lens into the world, and somewhere, somehow, somebody's going to feel like this connection to you. And what is life if there are no connections? So people are looking for deep connections with other people.
Yeah.
Right? Like we can choose to buy a jacket, a pair of shoes, a car, a property, or some training from anybody. The reasons why people choose one over the other is because not only do they see the value, but they say, well, I'm going to vote with my money what kind of world I want. And I like a world where something like Ryan exists. So rather than give it to Joe or Mary, I'm going to give it to Ryan. They're all going to teach me something. Some are better, some are worse. But I want to see more of the Ryans in the world win. That means Ryan's enemies, or the people stand against what he's doing, are going to lose. We vote that way. And I think it's an interesting way to measure that. And so if you are able to express yourself clearly aligned around the platform that you feel most natural or comfortable with, eventually an audience starts to form. And they're going to say, what should we do next? And you're like, okay, we will do this together, and we'll grow together, and we get to lift each other up.
I wonder, they say that politics is more divided than ever. And I just kind of wonder if that's really true, or if it's just social media amplifying what was already there. Because you just made me think about that. You're like, there are going to be people who resonate with me and what I'm saying. And they're going to vote with their dollars and their time and energy. And then there's going to be enemies who are like, no, I hate that guy. I don't like what he's doing. He's a fraud, whatever. Right. And you see that in politics, right? Like to the extreme. It's like, all right, I don't like Trump. I do like Trump, and it's just like this divide. Do you just think that that is what happens with social media as you get bigger? It's just like, as the more you express yourself, by default, there are people who love you and people who don't like you.
Yes. I would just add one clarification there. The more you truly express yourself, the more people are going to have to pick, are they on your team or off your team?
Because you're not playing in the middle anymore.
Right. Because a lot of people play in the middle. We know this. Everything's highly curated, edited, polished, and cleaned up.
I don't want to offend anyone.
Or even like, that's not even your real life. That's not your real face. And people do all kinds of weird stuff, right? You see those videos where they deconstruct their face. I'm like, oh my God, that's what they're literally pulling their lashes, the cheekbone out. I'm like, holy cow, what is this that we're looking at? And then TikTok and Instagram put filters on everything. It's like, is that your skin? Is that your face? And eventually you're going to have to see somebody in real life and they're going to say, oh my God, you're nothing like how you appear on camera. So what we have to do is we have to express ourselves. Let me rephrase that. You don't have to do anything. Do whatever you want. We should aspire to express ourselves in the truest form of who we are. And say, screw the consequences. This is who I am, and I'm not for everybody, and I'm okay with that. Now, I'm not doing it to hurt anybody, but I'm doing it as self-expression. And I don't think my ability to express myself should or ever impede on your ability to express yourself.
Correct.
That's where it gets really hurtful. Right? So my freedom can't impede on your freedom, because then it's not free. That's important. So the whole division in politics and why it's so polarizing, I think in large part has a lot to do with social media. Okay, are we less safe than we ever been? I don't know, but we're more aware of all the dangers in the world.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think it's changed. I think it's just awareness.
Change a little bit. Change a little bit. But here's the other thing too. We know that the algorithms live on controversy, and negative feelings are stronger than positive feelings. And so if you're growing up as a student of the game in politics, if you say certain things, it's going to get more play. You've learned how to master media. Now, I'm not saying I'm pro or con Trump, but he's learned how to play this game really well. So if we may venture into that, I'll share with people like what has happened here. So there's a guy, his name is David Epstein. He wrote a book called Range. I haven't read all the book, but the part that I read was about this idea that there are two systems at play. That's the whole thesis of the book. That in school, we learn of a system that is with rules. There's rights and wrong, and it's a very fair or kind system. If you excel in school, you knew how to because you knew the rules. Study hard, do this, do that, take AP classes, and you're going to be all right. But he says, like, when you leave the confines of school, you enter into, I think, a wicked system. It's not fair. It's unkind. You and I know, and people may accuse both of us or one of us of the same thing. Like, hey, he didn't deserve that. He's not talented. She's clearly got there because she did X, Y, and Z. And we know that the best people don't always win. In school, they always won. You have the highest batting average. You have the highest test scores. You become valedictorian, the highest GPA. That's what happens. So we have a system to train people on a set of rules that don't exist outside of school. That's why oftentimes academics fail horribly in the real world.
Yeah.
So where am I getting with this? Politicians have grown up within a system that says you must do this. There must be decorum. There are rules. There's ways to do things. You can't talk to me like that. You need to be respectful, and I will respect you even though we disagree. Come this
Trump.
wrecking ball with a capital T.
Yeah.
Who knows what kind of schooling and education he's got. I know he says he's the smartest person, he's got all the ideas, the best words, but he comes in like a bull in a china shop and they don't know what to do because they've grown up in this kind, fair system.
Yeah.
So when I see him debate and the kinds of things he does, every single day, the newswire was unprecedented. I'm like, you guys get your butts unclenched, deal with it and adapt. And they just could not adapt. He's like, I'm going to go on Joe Rogan. I'm going to cancel all the debates. I'm going to do whatever I want because he didn't know the rules. He's just doing whatever he wants to do.
Yeah.
And he'll punch low and high and sideways and people can't respond to that. So I'm screaming at the monitor saying, say this back, challenge him on this, but they don't know how to fight. They're all prep school kids who don't know how to fight. They don't know what it's like to have grit in your teeth and your knuckles dirty. They don't know how to fight. So I think he is divisive. I think social media amplifies it even more. And that's why I think right now it feels like we're more polarized because I think we are.
Yeah. But I can even say, so I'm a pro-Trump guy. And I would say, obviously, he's going to be here the next 4 years. This will be the end of his term after that. And hopefully things get really good. But I would think that going forward, even after him, it's going to be the same play going forward, like regardless of who the politicians are.
Meaning it's going to continue in the era of Trump?
In divisiveness.
Yeah.
I don't think it has as much to do with Trump with divisiveness as it has to do with when you have two parties with two different values, it's just amplified now. So if I'm a guy who's like, hey, I don't like abortion. And then somebody else is like, well, I think you should. And it's just like, it's divisive. Whereas before it just wasn't this social media divisive thing. And then now it's not even the politicians debating. And I actually think it's the compound effect of, okay, well now you have all these social media political people making content about it. This is what so-and-so said. And then, we got to rally against this. And then it's like, so every political influencer now has their own army that's rallying. And then everyone makes videos and everyone makes videos. And so I kind of just think like the issues have less to do with about a person, but more so like the root issues are what the root issues are. And people just disagree about them.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't want my freedom to impede yours.
Yeah, exactly. So what would you say about social media and AI and where things are headed?
I think AI is probably one of the most radical inventions of humankind, and the ripple effect from things that we can't even imagine that come from AI are just profound. And it's going to rock every single thing that we're touching today.
Yeah.
Where we can see applications of AI in social media are AI avatars and AI influencers and what content is real. Like I saw this clip of a whale biting a ship. I'm like, it looked really funny to me. All the comments like AI, bro. And you can kind of tell, but those lines are getting blurred. So authenticity, provenance of like where things come from are going to be more and more important.
Yeah.
Every time I think technology invents a new problem, technology will invent a new solution for the problem. It's how we progress, right? Yeah. We can fix some of this and we can change it. But my hope is that AI helps to alleviate our humanity's need to do basic things that shouldn't be done by anyone. And then it creates a time of prosperity through wealth for everyone for a certain level, where we can start to look at, well, who am I in this journey called life, and who do I want to become? Yeah. And we get to move towards Maslow's hierarchy of needs near self-actualization. I think that becomes really important. Yeah. Things like in-person events and connecting with real people, touching real materials and sharing song, dance, religion, spirituality, whatever it is, the communal experience becomes much more important. Yeah. I think
you and I were talking about it at dinner, but if AI does all of these things, right? A lot of people fear that it's going to take jobs and different things. And like I've even heard content creators, like, wow, like if AI comes along, I mean, are they going to replace content creators and all this stuff? And I've kind of just thought about it in a lot of ways. I do think on the business side of things, there's going to be so many redundant tasks that are just now no longer needed, right? Yeah. And what I've already noticed is whenever you're able to eliminate expense in a company, it usually flows through to the customers. And so if I'm able to cut my cost over here, a competitor is also able to do the same thing, right? So then it ends up just being this competitive thing of it ends up lowering price and everything else anyway. So it's a benefit to the customer. So I think that increases prosperity. But one thing I've thought about too is even with AI content and everything else, it's like we've kind of already lived in a world where fake things we kind of idolize and like. For example, superheroes, IP, anything IP is already in the same vein. It's fake. Mickey Mouse, Captain America, whatever, right? Those things have been running around for 50 to 100 years. Video games, I think about people just messing around on Grand Theft Auto and whatever, right? So it's like, I don't really know how different these AI avatars actually are going to be for people because we already have it. It's called cartoons.
But the difference there, when you watch a cartoon or a piece of media, it's not real.
Right.
Whereas if you start to blur the lines between entertainment and news and documentation, it becomes pretty scary now.
Yeah.
No one's going to confuse Mickey Mouse with being a real mouse. We know that.
Yeah.
What we're drawn towards these things, I've never looked at it as fake, but just as stories, then our society is steeped in story and mythology, and superheroes and cartoon characters are just the current form of the mythology. It's like the new gods. So the Greeks and the Romans believed in certain things. The Egyptians, they all had their mythology. And depending on what tribe you come from, people will say, this is real and your thing is fake.
Yeah.
And it just goes round and round. But I'm not sure that that's where I would include with this thing on AI. I think AI is perhaps in the best possible way an enhancement of human creativity, intelligence, and invention. In the most negative way, it becomes the thing that destroys all of us.
Yeah.
Because no one's thinking or doing anything anymore. I describe AI like this. AI is kind of agnostic. It just does whatever it's asked to do, kind of without question. And so if a lot of uneducated people are asking it to do something, who determines if that thing it makes is good? Yeah. So we need someone to decide that was a good piece of poetry, that was a good song, that was a good piece of architecture, that was a brilliant photograph that was generated. So I think the new masters of the next 25 years are people who are really good teachers. So your wife will do well here.
Okay.
Perhaps. Is that when AI shows you something, the teacher has to grade it.
Yeah.
Is it good or is it bad? Is it well researched? Is it well thought out? Is it divisive? Is it inclusive? Whatever the parameters are, the teacher has to decide. But if the teacher doesn't know right from wrong, good from bad, then whatever AI makes, they'll just say that's good and they'll put that into the world.
Yeah.
And eventually we'll become really savvy to smells like AI content, doesn't it? It looks fake, feels fake. I don't think it's written by a person. I don't think this is a genuine thing. I think we'll feel that and we'll start to know. Just like how when you're exposed to really fine things like wine or clothing or architecture, you can just touch materials this is not it.
Yeah.
This is printed, this is not real.
Synthetic.
It's synthetic and I don't like that. I mean, you guys live in a place full of synthetic things.
Yeah.
You walk through those casinos and why don't they just buy real marble? They can afford it, clearly, but it's concrete painted to look like marble. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
But you know it. So I think in that same way, AI is so new right now that to the uninitiated, they're like, whoa, it looks so good. I'm like, no, there's things that are not quite right about it. I'm not offended if you tell me that it's AI, but if you try to fool me, then we have some problems there. Because I think, what are your intentions by trying to fool me?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that content on YouTube right now.
Is there?
AI voice, AI generated scripts, AI video clips, the whole bit. And they can do this because they'll get a couple 100,000 views. So it's worth it to some kid to make somewhere in the world where they can just generate this stuff.
Yeah.
I can hear because they pronounce common things incorrectly.
Yeah.
Like a regular person would know that you don't say that word this way. And I see AI is reading it and doesn't know how to pronounce it the correct way yet.
Yeah.
Everything's always yet, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you're a good teacher, if you know right from wrong, and then when it produces something, you can give it instruction and say, well, I like these things about it, but take it here. That's what teachers do. They give you a critique.
Yeah.
Or a good coach. Hey, Brian, if you adjusted your feet, your golf swing and follow through this way, it'll be much, much better.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, okay. So you're the student and the person's giving you clear direction. So if you want to be a person who's not working for AI, but AI is working for you, I think you need to learn to be a really good teacher. You have to have broad understanding of history, art, culture, music, philosophy, so that you can decide what is good and what is not good.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So, I mean, everyone's going to end up using AI in the future, just whether they realize it or not. It'll be part of their lives. And those who essentially know how to direct and give it feedback and critique are going to be the ones who make things happen.
Yeah.
How are you using it right now?
Oh, there's so many different things. So I try and help people improve their sales skills. So one very easy application is have the machine analyze the sales call and say, where were we in and out of rapport? And where did you leave a question and move on to another subject before the client was ready? Where did you make assumptions? Where did you use judging aggressive language? And to help you understand and how to improve upon this. Mm-hmm. Now, this should be done, and it's probably done on a scale that's very small. But if we're able to use tools like that to help train people to, if you record your sales call and run it through a bot that can analyze it and give you actionable tips, that's super valuable. Mm-hmm. But we've built a AI version of myself based on exclusive course content and materials. So it understands what I know. It teaches the way I like to teach. And so now we have a TA who's literally available 24/7.
Yeah.
Has infinite patience, which I do not have, who's always going to show up with careful communication and with great intentionality, which I'm human. I have moods. I get tired. It never gets tired.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. How do you think that creators and influencers and everyone else can kind of prevent, or I guess help proof their business so that it's not, going to be, they're left in the dust, whatever?
Yeah. So if you're concerned that AI will replace you, there's a defense to the robot that's going to replace you. And AI can do things that humans can't do much faster, more efficiently, and for less money. Be careful of doing those tasks, first of all. Be aware of that. And what we do is we use the robots to fight the robots. So if an AI robot's going to write your marketing copy from a competing team, you're like, okay, well, we can't write that fast. Don't try it. Do you remember this cartoon, Paul Bunyan? Mm-hmm. And his Big Blue, the ox? Mm-hmm. So Paul's like a celebrated folk hero. He can chop trees down really fast. And then this nerdy business guy invents a machine that cuts trees really fast with chainsaws and saw blades. And so they have this competition. What I'm saying is Paul does not win that competition, right? He has a better life, but he doesn't win the competition. Don't be Paul Bunyan. If you know things are coming, don't just sit there and no, the old way is the best way. What I would do is use a robot to fight the robot. So if their robot's writing their marketing copy, if you're threatened by that, train your robot to write copy the way that you think it should be written, and it sounds more like you. Yeah. And then your robot fights their robot. It's like, it's not really about the tools we use, it's about who writes the better copy. So here's the example I would give to you. In the world of digital art, you might use Photoshop, you might use Mac Paint or something like that, or you can use Procreate. It doesn't really matter what tool you use. It's the question of how do you see the world and how are you choosing to represent, how do you express your point of view to the world? Yeah. We don't say you're a worse artist because you use Photoshop or you use Procreate. We don't really care. Yeah. We've gone beyond that. Yeah. Well, and there's some artists who don't even use any of those. They didn't use them when they came out or whatever, right? Like they're were slow to analog. Adapt. Yeah. Right? They can do that. And you can do that. So there are people who shoot with film, people who shoot in digital. But it's really the artist who uses the camera that makes the art. Yeah. It's not that the camera uses the artist to make the art. Yeah. So no one has ever said, I'm a better artist, you because I have a better camera.
Right.
If you said that, we know you're not an artist.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the challenge here. So AI will replace you because you're not competing with it using the tool.
Yeah.
But if you use a tool, then it's a question about expression and creativity, not about the tool anymore. It negates it.
How do you, I mean, a lot of your people that you talk to are naturally creative people. And, you know, I think we all have a level of creativity, but I guess how do you become more creative?
That's a very good question. And this is a business audience, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to tell your business audience right now, you are creative, you were born creative, and the creativity has been beaten out of you. Sir Ken Robinson, the late Sir Ken Robinson, has a beautiful talk about this, about how we're educated out of creativity. It's one of the most viewed TED Talks, I think number 1 or 2. And so before, just to tie it back with the personal branding thing, the Ryan that was a child who fully expressed himself and didn't get concerned about rules and coloring within lines was a really creative human being. And over time, all that's just stripped out of you. There's a NASA study about this. Do you know about this NASA study?
No.
So they studied like 500 kids from like 2 to 5, and a high percentage of them tested as geniuses, like high percentage, like 80 to 90%. And they tracked these kids, and by the time they reached 17, like, I don't know, a very low percentage, single digit, was still now considered genius. They're like, what happened? Well, society happened. All this creative thinking is stripped out of us. You know, like when I was playing video games with my son when he was much younger, I was trying to help him play this game called Ben Tennyson. And he's not as good with the controls, so I'm doing it. And I can't figure it out. I'm like, I don't know what we're doing. It's open world games. He goes, Dad, just jump on the trash can and throw that tomato or something. I'm like, you can't do that. He's like, just try it. And I go over there, I jump on the trash can, grab the tomato, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the fence falls down. I'm like, how'd you know that? Because he wasn't taught these dumb rules. He was looking for the clues as to what was supposed to happen next. I was like, games like this always work like this. I was stuck in my old way, and he was free from the old way. So as parents, and I know you have little ones, I think our job is to make sure that they don't learn the rules of the world, because they're mostly self-imposed and they're just stories we tell ourselves. I share that with your audience because all of you have that within you. You just have to unlearn all these stuff that you were taught.
How do you unlearn?
You start with curiosity.
Yeah.
You start with intention. Like, how do you get fit? Like, somebody will look at you and like, oh, it's easy for you, Ryan, to be fit. You're like, bro, you just work at it.
Yeah.
Okay, watch what you eat. Lift heavy things.
Yeah.
Make your heart move. Or, you know, have your heart beat faster. And you're like, eventually,
that's literally
you get
about
there.
it.
There's like 3 components, right?
Yeah, that's literally it.
Yeah, but you know what happens? Every person who's not in shape will look at you like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
It's just one step at a time. It's not any different. Now, we understand fitness because it's been talked about and documented more than creativity. But if we had the same eyeballs on creativity, it'd be the same. I could teach you. There's a book. I forget what it's called, the exact title. It's like How to Be an Artist Every Day, or How to Be Creative Every Day. And so it has these very unconventional things for you to do. It'll say something like, go to the supermarket, buy some fruit, make your own pigment. I'm like, what?
Yeah, what does that mean?
So mash up things, because I didn't know this, but like when you paint, all those materials come from the earth somewhere, from a rock or a flower or a beetle. I didn't know this, but certain colors come from them grinding up these red beetles.
Whoa.
Yeah, or these red mites, whatever it is. That powder becomes the color. Like the socks was colored by something in nature. So what it's saying is, teaching us like this pigment that we use doesn't come from nothing. So if you were to take a bunch of grapes, smash them down, get all the water out and dry it, you would be left with probably some kind of lavender purple pigment. So it's teaching you to be creative by just looking at something in everyday life and looking at it from a new perspective. And that is really just creativity.
Just looking at everything from a new perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I thought about, because I think outside the box a lot. I always question why people do things.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm talking to people, you know, they'll tell me about like, you know, something, and they could be more successful than me too. Yeah. And I'll just be like, that doesn't sound right. Why do you do that? And I think a lot of people would be scared to ask those kinds of questions, especially if somebody has proven results and whatever else. But I'll ask and I'll say, but why? You know, I actually had what made me wonder on one of them was I had my friend Tommy Mello here, and we did an interview a couple of weeks ago, and he sold his business for half of it for $600 million.
Wow.
And then
good on Tommy.
Yeah, he's killing it, and he's still doing it, and he's gonna exit again for over $1 billion, like second exit. And he goes, yeah, dude, soon I'll kind of be doing what you're doing. I'll be able to like play golf and spend more time doing this and that. But right now I just can't. I go, wait a minute, wait. What do you mean you can't? You already sold for $600 million. What do you mean? And we really started to get to the core of it. And by the end, he's like, you actually made me think like, I can do it right now. And it's like, to me, it's like, I'm nowhere near you. And if I can do it right now, you surely can do it right now. Because it's not a financial thing. It's, you own the business. You're the boss. You got people in place. Like, it's really just a choice on what you want to do with your time. And like, that'd just be one example, but even other things too. Like when I look at people's products or different things, I'll be like, why do you sell it for that? Or why don't you throw this in? Why don't you do that? Like, it's just constantly asking why. How could this be better? Why can't we do it? I actually heard I've used this quote a lot. It actually came from a pastor. His name's Craig Groeschel. And he said that, I don't want to butcher it, but the main premise is that limitation is what leads to innovation.
Yeah.
When you force limits on yourself, that's when you have to come up with new creative solutions. Like if I got $1 million to solve the problem, I don't really have to innovate. But if I only have $1,000 to solve the same problem, I'm gonna have to get scrappy and think of something new. Like what have you found in your life with, I don't know, you talked about grit before too. Like a lot of these politicians don't have grit and they just never have, had to fight a different way.
Yeah. I think in order for a business person to be more creative, I think they just need to give themselves permission to be creative. And sometimes you need to get permission from somebody who holds some imbalanced power or control over you that you don't even know. It could be a parent, it could be a sibling, it could be a colleague, somebody in your life for some reason is holding you back. And so what I would say, if you know that, if you have that high level of self-awareness, what I would do is I would have a conversation with that person. Let's say it's mom. Okay. And I say, Mom, so for the last 4 years, I've worked at becoming an attorney or an accountant or whatever. And this was this deep thing inside of me that's always wanted to play music or to dance and something like that. And I want to let you know this, Mom, like your opinion means the world to me. And I'd be heartbroken if I did something and you disapproved. Mm-hmm. I'm asking you for your permission if I could pursue this thing and be given some grace for a period of time so that I can do that. And to be very clear in your communication so that they know. And if they're a good-hearted person who really has your best interest at heart, they say, how could I ever stop you? Son, daughter, do your thing. And I didn't realize I had this outsized control or influence over you and what you did. I would just do that in the most generous, loving way possible because we need to get permission. There's some people in the outer edges of the spiritual world that would say that all we're looking for in life are permission slips. And we need it from somebody. And it's sometimes you give yourself permission to go and pursue that creative thing. What I find really interesting is we have a friend in common, Neil Dingra. He runs a thing called Forward, and he has a lot of real estate loan officer professionals in it. And I find that when I'm in his space, I first felt like a total outsider, that I didn't belong. And it reminded me of like junior high all over again. Yeah. But when I started to realize is that all of his people, not all, a lot of his people want the thing that I have, which is freedom to express myself. Yeah. To dress a certain way, to look a certain way, to paint outside the lines because I don't see the lines. And they need permission. Like one guy came up to me, he's like, Chris, I love your outfit. I love what you're doing. How do I get started in that? I'm like, you just do this. And he goes, I can't. I had that. And when I wore it, I said, what happened? He said, my friends clowned on me. You know that, especially with a bunch of bros. In real estate and sales, they're going to do that to you. I said, here's the thing. It looks like they're being very mean to you, but my theory is they're afraid of losing you.
Yeah.
Because when one of our friends starts to change, we know what's going to happen. We've been buddies for a really long time, and you're growing in ways that I'm uncomfortable with. So what I do is I pull you right back. Because it's not because I'm angry at you. I just don't want to lose you. So if you know that, give yourself permission to try.
Yeah.
And so I went out on stage wearing like a pair of shorts, but they kind of looks like skirt short. And people are like, first inspired. And some people are like, that's too weird for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's cool. I'm not trying to tell you to do it. I'm not telling you it's superior. This is how I'm going to be.
Yeah.
And some people like it, some people don't. And that's your business. Your opinion has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So that's what I try to do. I try to spark this in people. I'm like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
And you do that for your community.
Yeah.
Right? You give them permission. It's a permission slip to show up on camera, to do certain things, to have a better relationship or rekindle their faith or something.
Yeah.
You're giving people permission.
I've never heard anyone talk about giving people permission. Because for me, I've kind of always just done what I've wanted to do regardless. And my parents, and I think always were great in encouraging me. Like they never forced me to do anything. They're like, oh, you want to play baseball? Okay. Well, let's give you all the tools we can to play baseball and be great at it. Okay. You want to do this? All right. We'll support that. Oh, you're going to, do this video? Okay, cool. Like they're just super supportive of whatever I've ever wanted to do. So like, I never even thought that, oh yeah, they're co-signing, what I'm doing. It's just, it was always a natural thing.
Yeah.
But
you have good parents, by the way.
Yeah. And, they're great grandparents now and they do an awesome job. But, you just made me think about people I've met at my events. And one of the common ones that I've heard from people, especially as I've gotten more outspoken about my faith, is I've had multiple people tell me this, dude, like by you being so outspoken, it's given me permission to be outspoken too.
Yeah.
And I was like, like you could have just been outspoken the whole time, like you didn't, I'm glad it inspired you.
Yeah.
And it's not like I even like gave you permission, said, hey,
right,
you may go do this now. You have my blessing. No, but it's like they got permission. Like, oh, if Ryan's going to do that, then I can do that.
Yeah. If somebody that feels like me, who's doing kind of what I'm doing, is doing that and no one's stabbing you.
Yeah.
Maybe it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why earlier we're saying that when you express and communicate who you are, your beliefs, your ideas and your values to the world, you're giving other people permission to do the same. This works both good and bad. So if we're like uncivilized towards each other, we're also saying that's okay to do too.
Yeah.
I'd like to try and like be a force for good in the world, to like try to share messages that are more positive and uplifting than to try and tear everyone apart.
Right.
Both will work.
Yeah. Yeah. Either way, both are going to happen.
Yeah.
So what do you think about school? Because we've talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
And that was your original vision for the future.
Yeah.
Right. And one thing that stuck out to me throughout just talking to this point is the theme of school. You're like, look, school makes you uncreative. It beats it out of you. School is this game of playing fair, and then the real world ain't fair.
Real estate investors, I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about.
And, even at dinner, we're talking about just different ways that you think about how school can become. And I can tell you for me, my kids are now about to enter school and I'm going to homeschool. And I've thought a lot about it because now I'm looking at options and I'm like, I don't like any of the options. Like, okay, I don't like the public school option. I don't even want to do the private school option. Okay, what are the homeschool options? Like, what are the different co-ops and things out there and all this stuff? Like, I'm thinking of it for my young kids right now, but we know that obviously as adults and teenagers and everything else, there's just an outdated system from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Like, what are your thoughts on fixing it?
Well, first of all, I think it's beautiful as parents to take on that responsibility because it's a lot of extra work.
Yeah.
You're lucky because you're married to a teacher.
Yeah.
So there's some of that built in. But I think what's going to happen is, and I've seen this kind of anecdotally, so I don't have like large data points to back this up, but what's going to happen is your kids are going to be really well balanced. They're going to be super smart, and they're going to have basically a lot of self-confidence because there's no one around to tell them that they're stupid or ugly or you're weird or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so they'll do more, learn more, and move much quicker, but they're going to miss a really core component. How you solve that problem is, I don't know. The core component is their ability to be in tune with other people's needs and feelings are going to be very low. I find that people who are homeschooled can accomplish lots of things, but they're very self-important and they don't know how to engage in a social way.
Yeah.
So you'll figure that part out.
Yeah.
Like, because if you're always around your cousins or your family, you could do whatever you want because it's always love. Yeah. It's always love no matter what. It's always very safe too.
Yeah. Right? That's why like the co-ops are interesting because it takes that element of socializing with other homeschool kids. But you know what's interesting too is like, like when we were growing up, the homeschool kids were always weird. Like they didn't know
always
how to socialize,
weird.
Right?
Yeah.
But now it's like, well, every kid is connected to other kids, like social media, video games, like sports, like getting connection. I don't think is going to be a problem in the future. Like we're more connected than ever.
Yeah.
So it's like interesting to see how, like one of my theories is obviously you need physical connection. And so, whether that's sports and classes and, all that other stuff, that'll play a role. But like, I also think about, man, we live in the most connected world ever. Like I know what you've been doing. We haven't seen each other in years.
Yeah. But there's connection and it depends on the depth of the connection.
Right.
Right? Because we might be able to keep tabs on lots of things, but maybe we're not going really that deep.
Right.
And things like empathy start to kind of disappear. And I think that's why we're more divisive. Mm-hmm. It's because we don't look at the world through anybody else's lens anymore. It's just all about my lens. And I see this. I mean, I see very high performing, high achieving, super bright, intelligent, accomplished people who are homeschooled who are like, I think you're just in your world. And it's kind of hard to undo that at some point. Because everyone has been paying attention to them the entire time.
Yeah.
That's the tricky part. Even with big families, it becomes like that. So I think it's brilliant. What I would try to do is to have a mix somewhere.
Yeah.
With a co-op thing. I don't know what that is, but it sounds like they need to be able to mash up against friction and how they deal with what I know. Johnny took my car. Well, home, it's like it's always here. But if Johnny from some other place took your car, it's like now we have to deal with that.
Yeah. And
what we want to do, and I think you know this really well, is to stress our body in amounts that we can handle.
Yeah.
So we can grow stronger.
Yeah.
And so if we don't have those stress points, we become very soft.
Yeah. That's the one thing I've realized about, and this is really what I just always say about people who really, unfortunately, haven't played sports. I see very soft people.
Yeah.
If they never played sports. Yeah. I don't care if they're homeschooled, public school, because obviously sports is a ton of stress on the body, physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. It teaches you how to be competitive. It teaches you how to work together as a team. It teaches you how to
be a
feel
loser
pressure,
sometimes.
Be a winner, be a loser.
Yeah, both.
Either or, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, I can tell you from all my years of playing sports, when I came into the business world dealing with failure, I'm like, okay, so what are we going to do tomorrow? There's next game. Like, what are we going to do?
Right.
But other people don't think like that. They're like, what if I fail? What if they say something about me? But you come from the sports world, you're like, dude, I'm playing in front of thousands of fans and they're booing you to your face, not digitally, not behind your back, like right there.
Right.
And this person wants to destroy you mano a mano.
Right.
This isn't like the competition. You never see them and like, you just hear about them. It's like, no, dude, we are literally going toe to toe.
Yeah.
And so it just creates this thing where I think, everyone should do something extremely competitive against like somebody else. And it doesn't have to be like fighting. And I think that's why people are getting into jiu-jitsu and all this stuff too, because they realize a lot of people have never done anything competitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you think about just with everything you're doing now on the education side? You know, you guys are doing courses, you guys are doing coaching, all of that. You got your AI bot that's helping out all of your guys' students and everything else. Where do you see it going as this road of making school and education better? Like, how do you see it evolving?
Okay.
Because right now it seems like, you know, you're kind of doing like the normal things that other educators do.
Yep. So if you made me king of education and gave me the power to do something, I would change certain things. Number one, I would say, like, where are dollars being spent in this country right now? It's spent on entertainment, spent in media, spent in games and things of that nature. Because that's like where the talent follows. It's not being spent on education. You don't get rich by being a good educator. So I would like to flip that dynamic a little bit. Maybe set aside a budget or crowdsource the money to be able to do this so that we find the very best, most engaging, dynamic teachers to teach every single subject. We document it to the best of our ability, meaning we shoot with 17 cameras at 8K, I don't care what it is, and we give them all the resources, creative teams to make props and all that kind of stuff, and we record the very best master class of that version. Then we have this high fidelity recording, and we edit it, we organize it, we make it highly searchable, and we distribute this to all the schools that want to learn this thing. So then what's the job of the teacher now? The teacher was the person who's going to repeat the same lesson over and over, but now they get to actually engage with the students to help them to learn, not to disseminate the information. So we can be much more efficient with disseminating the information. And the videos or these courses that do really well, the teachers, the authors of that should be paid a royalty just like all book authors are able to make. And that's a wonderful way to reward them up front and on the back end. The teachers look after the well-being of the children, to support them, to ask them questions, to make them think, and to go over anything that they don't understand. So we watch the videos at home and we do homework at school. So we want to flip the paradigm a little bit. And then schools become like now these large empty campuses of what? So we convert the spaces into theaters so we can have a communal experience. And instead of watching Iron Man 15, we can watch physics lecture number 44. And we are like, oh, that was it. Did you see that thing? That was really cool, right? And we can have conversations with people and say, okay, having watched this thing and having a communal experience, why don't we have a discussion about it now? And so I think what happens, that's the most interesting part of teaching and learning, is the stuff that happens between the lecture and home, the weird conversations on the side or lab time or something like that. So we convert a lot of the school into learning spaces, not lecturing places. And I think that becomes much more interesting. And we should have gyms and we should have fresh food brought in so that people are not just forced to live with the habits of their parents, but they can see a different way of living. Like physical exercise, health, nutrition, those are integrated components, not an afterthought to the school experience. So we take care of the mind, the body, and then the spirit.
So you hit on a lot of points there. I love the second half with getting them physically. And, you know, you think about the current school system, it's like, well, that's why we did have PE. You know, they at least tried, though it didn't really work. But you think about what you just said was kind of profound to me of they're done backwards. Like we're lecturing in person and doing homework at home. Where
you need the most help, by the way, or you feel most defeated, most vulnerable.
Yeah. Whereas you split that and you go, no, you watch the lesson at home and let's implement in the class. That does make more sense. But it's funny because when you said textbook and royalties and everything else, it made me think, I'm like, well, I guess kind of that's somewhat how it's been because, you know, you go to college, you have to buy the textbooks. And that is the lesson. It's just, it's not in a video. It's not entertaining. It's very boring the way they're written. So it's like, it's kind of taking what already exists, but making it in how we consume information today.
Well, I would borrow more from the world of Hollywood. and maybe book publishers than I would from the world of education.
Right.
So Hollywood has tremendous budget for making dumb movies. $150 million for this movie that no one's going to watch. But they're willing to gamble because they need a couple of hits, a couple of tentpole pictures, and then they're good again. They're flush. So we should do that. But what we do is we go through this whole process of like having writers and editors and composers and artists working on it. Like, you know, at the end of every visual effects movie, there's a gazillion credits. Who's responsible for teaching your children? One person and an outdated textbook.
Yeah.
Right? And I think you know this, or maybe I'm making up a story here, where certain publishers have a lock hold on schools.
Yeah.
And so they have to buy the books. Otherwise, you don't get the other books. And
yeah.
It's not the best book. It's just the book.
Mm-hmm.
And we're teaching literally the textbook version of it, which doesn't allow for flexibility and to being up to date. Because the cycle of releasing a new edition is far behind what's happening in the real world. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to update. Well, I mean, this is why YouTube and everything else is just blowing up for info, because it's like you and I can go make a video pretty quickly on a topic that we're currently experiencing in real time.
Yes.
You can't do that with a book.
No.
That's it takes years to
But you know what's the best part? Is 1,000 of us are going to do it simultaneously, unaware that either any of us are doing it, and we compete in the free market. So then the best presenter with the best information, with the best thumbnail, hook, and title, or whatever it is the one that emerges, and the other ones all suffer.
Yeah.
So it forces us to be better than we were last time, but not that, but we have to be better than everyone else who's doing it currently.
Yeah.
That's not happening in school.
No, they got
whoever's warm body who's there.
Yeah.
Who's going to look after your kids. Basically, it's glorified daycare.
Yeah.
Did you love school, by the way, growing up?
Not really, no.
Yeah. Do you remember any instructor that was kind of influential in the way you thought up into high school? Anybody stand out?
No.
See, that's the problem.
Yeah.
But I bet you could probably name a whole bunch of mentors and coaches that have shaped your life as an adult.
Yeah.
That's the problem. The quality of instruction, your ability to choose, those two things, and your ability to see the application of that thing that you're learning in real time.
Yeah. Well, I think that second part's the thing. It's like, if you're going to go learn from somebody, you first want to see the fruit of what they're teaching you. And so when you look at any instructor up through high school, they're teaching on a subject that doesn't really have fruit for them, right? Like, it's like, okay, we're going to teach you English. My wife is an English teacher. It's like, okay, like, so what's this done? And it's like, well, we just have to learn it. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to learn calculus. Like, what'd this do for you? Did you build this big company because you know calculus? No, I'm a calculus teacher because I know calculus. It's like, okay. But, everyone that we would go hire today, they'd be like, oh, I'm going to hire Chris to be my mentor because of look at all of these accolades and things he's done. Look how many views he gets. Look at all the people he's impacted. I'm going to hire Ryan because look at this. Look how many deals he's done. And so unfortunately, and this is also, it goes into your point too of like putting big budget behind the biggest people, because man, like if you're the world's best on branding, then throw all the budget at you, get it awesome, and distribute it to everyone.
That's right.
Like that's how the problem gets solved.
Yes. And it'll make money.
Yeah.
Because the people who are not in your network, who are not subscribed to the courses, then you can sell that and pretty much make your money back.
Yeah.
You'll have your Hollywood tentpole picture, except for now you're going to do a lot of good for a lot of people.
Yeah. I think like we're already there in the free market of YouTube and whatever else. But like, I think this is what I was saying before. It ends up making the rich richer. Like the gap just keeps, basically, this is my whole theory of technology and social media. People already are who they were, right? So it's like, you were a successful person before social media. I was a successful person. Social media is just amplifying what you already were. And now it's, you're reaching more people, more things and all that. And I've even thought about this too with AI now dubbing voices and everything. I'm like, so what happens here, right? Like, you were just in Singapore. Singapore used to have their own influencers and Europe has their own and Argentina has their own. But if now it's a globally free market where now you're in every single country, okay, now everyone in Argentina has to compete with you too now, right? And so it's just naturally the cream rises to the top because of technology. And I saw this happen in baseball. Like, that's why I know it's already going to 1000% happen. Because I remember, growing up playing baseball, you're the best on your high school team. It's like, dude, this is great. Yeah. Then you get to college and you're like, whoa, these were all the best on their college team. This is crazy, right? And then, you're doing great. And it's like, that's kind of like what it's like competing in America right now. We're only competing against each other in college and high school. Then you get drafted and then boom, it's global. And I remember the first day I walked into, the locker room, and over here you got 5 Dominican dudes, you got some Venezuelan dudes, you got some guys from Taiwan, from Japan, America. And it's like, no, these are all the best from the entire world. Go compete. And that's what tech is doing for like everything we're about to do.
Mm-hmm. The world's gotten smaller and it's got a lot more competitive.
But the cream just naturally rises to the top, right? Because it's like, if I'm in Taiwan or if I'm in the US and I want to learn branding, I don't need to learn the best Taiwan brander. Like, I want to know who's the best at branding. Yeah. And if I can now have access to Chris, then I'm going to watch Chris. Yeah. Sorry, local guy. And that's kind of the point. It's like these middle school teachers, they were the local person. Right. It's the only help. But now, if everyone can just watch the best of the best in every subject virtually, then you actually don't really need that many people. You need facilitators. Right.
You need facilitators. That's the shift. And you don't have to be a subject matter expert. What you need to do is learn how to create safe learning environments, to ask thoughtful questions that allow people to come to the answers themselves. Yeah. But here's the thing though. I think when you said in YouTube, it's already being done. If we really think about the origins of like how people create content on YouTube, it starts out as a curiosity, like an interest, but people don't have the money to buy the equipment and all that, everything they need to really produce high-end thing. They don't have the team. Yep. So they're going to run over and turn the camera on and come back. It's out of focus. They're like, I'll do another one. The audio's jacked, Yep. You know this.
Yep. That's how I started.
It's much better to have a team. Yep. Got to have a team to help you. Yep. And then the team helps to make the content better. Mm-hmm. And you review things together. So we need to put real resources, because the cream does rise to the top. What happens when, whatever the analogy is, that person never even made anything because they didn't have the resources. Yeah. So there could be a better teacher, but not right now. Correct. So that's where I think, like, why not do what is it? America's Got Talent. Yeah. Have a talent off. Have people come in and compete and have a national call, an international call. Yeah. And then whoever does the best job at that, now we have a whole team to help you produce your hit record, except for it's not a record, it's your hit course. Mm-hmm. So we just borrow from the models that already exist and we just tweak it like 3%, and now we can solve a bigger problem. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Global, international competition. And the only point is for you to show us how good of a teacher you are. Mm-hmm. So how would somebody get started today, right? We don't have that yet. You got people listening to this that maybe they're creative people. Maybe they've had success in something. And they're like, dude, I want to build my brand on social media. Yeah. Like, what would be your advice today? Well, I would say if you're afraid of that, then you're just not ready. And we all will be ready at our own time, and that's totally okay. But I'm going to encourage you that you need less than what you think. That if you can just let go of the need to be liked, your need to be popular, your need to get approval from folks, and just express yourself fully in the most generous way that you can, things will start to work out. So don't worry about the results. No, not for a long time. That's what I hear with that. It's like, look, you need to just be you. Don't worry about other people. Yeah. Just put it out there. That will be you aligned to your highest self. Mm-hmm. Like if you were really passionate about talking about baseball and poker, let's just say. Yeah. And you're like, no one's going to watch this, but I'm going to do this because I don't know how else to live my life. I have to express this. And you do it. And you keep doing it. And you get a little bit better. And then one day there's like 100 people who show up like, we just love the way you bring those two worlds together. We both like baseball and we like poker.
Yeah.
They're freakazoids and you just bring them together. And then those 100 people become 1,000, 10,000. And next thing you know, you start a tournament for people to play. And you've created a whole movement. I think it's like, there's a line in Aliens. I think is it Prometheus? I can't remember which Aliens it is. But the android David holds up this little speck of an alien kind of goo. And I think the thing is, big things start small. And then I think there's a Zig Ziglar quote out there, something like, you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great.
Yeah. Why do you think most people are afraid to start? Why do they live in fear?
They're waiting for that permission slip. Because they're afraid of judgment. They're afraid of failure because they've learned in school when you give the wrong answer, you're humiliated. When you don't do well in a course or a test, you flunk. And if you do poorly long enough, you don't even get to go to school. And everyone gives you this like scarlet letter of stigma, like you're a dummy. So we have a lot of practice of learning how to be afraid of mistakes. That's the problem with school.
I never thought about that. Yeah.
So, there's this thing called convergent and divergent thinking. Convergent thinking, there's only one way to do something right. There's many ways to do something wrong. Divergent thinking says there are many ways to do things. Some are right and some are wrong.
Yeah.
Schools are really good at teaching a convergent system. The world is divergent.
Yeah. It's like the movie. You ever seen that movie, Divergent?
I don't remember it, but I feel like I've seen it.
It's just one of these teen post-apocalyptic movies.
You seen it? Yeah.
Yeah. But it is like these people, they try to conform into these systems, and it's like, hey, this is what you are. And then, they have the divergents who are like, I don't feel like I fit in that.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm a bit of everything. So, and then they break free and it destroys all of society. The way that they wanted it.
Good.
Yeah. But anyways, dude, no, I appreciate you coming out, man. It's always good to catch up with you. For anyone who wants to connect or join what you got going on with your courses and your coaching and everything else, where do they find it?
The best thing to do is just follow me on social media. I'm at the Chris Do. Do is spelled D-O. Or if you're curious about our offerings, go to thefutur.com. Future is spelled F-U-T-U-R. There's no E, so you can say Futur, but it's the future.
Why is there no E?
Couldn't get it.
Couldn't get it.
It costs too much money, man. That extra little vowel costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
So somebody's domain sitting, squatting, and they have a right to it. I'm like, please, we're an education company. Can we have it? They're like, no. I don't think they're doing anything with it, but they just don't give it to us. So we turn a constraint into a bit of creativity. So now we have a name that's fully trademarkable. If you have the E, it's just like a lot of people couldn't say that.
Yeah.
So we're the only future without an E.
There we go. Guys, go check it out. Chris, appreciate you, dude.
Thanks, Ryan.
Peace.